So, there we go. Should be loud enough to hear on everything. Let me just get in with my puppy slippers here.
Oh, stickers.
All right. Hello and welcome everybody to How to Art, the podcast for, creative entrepreneurs, dream chasers, someone wanting to make some sort of creative pursuit a little bit bigger part of their life, whether that be actually doing it full time or just making something a little bit from your hobby. I don't know, something like that. We're still finding our way. I have a not guest, but new co-host to the podcast to introduce. Sebastian, why don't you go ahead and tell them a little bit about yourself?
Oh, well, my name is Sebastian. 27 years old. What else do you want to know? What else do they want to know?
He likes music. He's good. Brought him on because I know he's going to find good music for us to review, or he will at least find music that is out. We'll talk about that a little bit later, what we found. But from now on, I kind of wanted to talk about the new format. Party, foul, phone going off. No. But what we're going to do, and I figure we should make sure we lean in for the camera as well, because I think it's going to cut us off on the edges. But one thing I want to do is kind of explain the new format that we're thinking for this podcast, and how that's basically going to go is each week we still are going to revisit some of the lessons and things that I wanted to bring up at the beginning. So might think of a topic that would be helpful to entrepreneurs or people who are doing something creative, and talk through that a little bit. But then we're going to move into some other music and kind of like pop culture discussion. This week, for example, we have 3 projects that we're going to review, or albums. One, we kind of chose different levels. So one from quite a large artist that most people have heard of, one from somewhere in the middle, and then one from a completely indie release that we will talk about as well. And those span a couple of different genres.
Yep.
So that's basically the plan for this format right now, and we'll see how it goes, and you guys can let us know what you think of it and what we should change or adapt. But I guess we can get started. The topic I wanted to bring up first for this week, which we'll kind of just gloss over a little bit because it's a little bit one-sided, as it relates directly to I basically 1 year ago this week left a marketing job that I absolutely hated. Sebastian and I have had plenty of discussions about being at jobs we don't like and stuff. It's been a full year now, and I've been freelancing and doing music all that time, and kind of learned some things about like what did I expect to happen in that time, what actually happened in that time, what I need to like keep doing better. I would say the most common thing that's kind of asked, I'm like very transparent, is like, oh, are you like living off of music at this point? I don't know. The other people I'm sure have had other trajectories when they've taken this leap. For me, the answer is no, not completely. And a lot of the income that I have, so I'll be like very transparent right now, probably make between $300 and $600 a month off of like freelance and creative pursuits that I'm doing. And some of that comes from the live streaming that I'm doing on Twitch. Some of that, which is a smaller chunk right now, comes from just music, like sales and streams, basically. And then the largest chunk, it comes from freelancing. Now, when I started out, I was doing mostly freelancing from like voice acting and like just anything I could get a hold of that I figured I could do because I had a microphone. Now I've moved into doing more and more like mixing and that kind of work for people, and that's been, it's kind of like almost like a first step for me. Like at least it's more related to what I want to do, and I'm moving towards that. But that's where I am right now, and I've kind of, it's you know this from different like times you've been employed or not and stuff. It's definitely self-motivation and like being able to get up each day and stick to a strict schedule is not necessarily the easiest thing, but it kind of has to be when you want to accomplish something and you don't have anyone like telling you to do it and being a like boss about it. So I think that's almost like the biggest thing I've thought of is this year is just even the next 365 days getting even better at that, because I know there have been time periods of a few months at a time where I've executed really well of like getting up every day and I'm making content for social, I'm putting out like music that day, I'm doing the live stream, I'm writing stuff for an album or whatever, and even those few good months have momentum that carries when you kind of lull for a little bit, but you can't lull for too long or expect that you've gotten that far when you really haven't yet. I don't know what you think of, or like what you expect, or where you think you might be if you think of like, okay, I'm gonna drop everything and just do music for the next year.
Yeah.
How would you envision that? Or
I mean, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I would expect myself to be able to live off of music if that was my only focus. But I mean, I'm also not the most like positive guy, so I don't know. But what would you say to someone that wanted to like do the same thing as you did, like quit your job and focus on their like creative endeavors? Would you say do it, or would you?
I would say do it, but I would also say that everyone has to know their own situation. This was, I put money in savings before I left, and even knowing that, okay, 6 months down the road, that's probably going to run out, and I don't expect that I'll be like making anywhere near the same that I was at a job from music at that point. Then I needed to have, had a discussion with my girlfriend long before making that move. And okay, how are we gonna split up bills, and like, are you okay with this, and for what period of time? And I think depends on the position people are in. For other people, it also depends on their personality, right? Because for me, it was like absolutely suffocating, and basically we'd get home every night and had zero motivation after 8 to 9 hours of doing something that I hated.
Yeah.
And other people might actually have a better sense of willpower and be a little more centered in that they can do that during the day and still come home and they're happy to work from 7 a.m. to 2 in the morning on their craft, but they still have a paycheck coming in, and they are a little more stable for a while. So I think I would recommend doing it, but I would recommend people do it in their own way. I would never recommend just stay in some shitty thing you hate forever, but...
No. So it's more make sure that you have the support you need, so like a partner or family or something that can help you if you end up in a tough financial situation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, and that like people also think like even if it doesn't necessarily have to be a partner or someone else helping support you, but have a plan that accommodates for that not being part of the equation as well, which could mean that if you're able... One of the things that was kind of rough, because I was, in a foreign country when I did this, is I was not allowed to do what would probably have been the ideal in-between that I thought of a lot at the time, and that for some people might be, which is work the bare minimum number of hours you need to pay the bills and not have that be a constant stress, so you can have a part-time job perhaps. And then you free up, you still don't have 5 full-time days a week where you're having to do a full-time job, but you lessen the burden on the other side a little bit. That can be a good in-between. And I wasn't, for the visa that I was on and being in this country, I was legally not allowed to take a part-time job.
Okay.
And so that kind of eliminated that option. But had it been kind of switched at the time, I even talked with my boss, because it was not the amount of hours I was tied to, but the employer I was tied to with my visa. It's more accurate to say. So with my boss, I even talked with him about like reducing hours and stuff, and they really they wanted someone that was very I understand, they're a young company, they wanted someone very ambitious in this marketing role and that wanted to do it full time. But that was my first thought, was I would rather reduce my hours, and but it's what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting to think about how many creative minds are being stifled by having to work those 9 to 5 or 9 to 6 or whatever they do. How many people who would actually create something beautiful if they just had the energy after a day of just regular work, basically.
Yeah. I'm just checking to make sure that I have everything I should plug in. Sorry for the break podcast. I'm making sure that I plug in my phone so that there's no battery issues or anything like that in the middle of filming. Looks like it's a good thing. Gave me the 20% warning, but it's still filming.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I think if it's under 5% or something, it stops recording or something like that.
All right. False alarm. We're good. We're good to go for now. Insurance sake, no one wants to talk for 40 minutes and have it.
Then realized that.
Yeah, that it wasn't going the whole time.
It was 5 minutes and then nothing.
Rip. It happens. I've seen some really big podcasts where that's happened with. Actually, it seems to even happen. I was telling you that one No Jumper that does a lot of hip hop stuff, and they definitely had an episode not that long ago where they were just a third of the way into the episode, it just became like a black screen, and it just text was like, "Oh, sorry, our camera died in the middle of it," and it was like an hour-long interview with some famous rapper.
Oh,
but yeah, rest in peace.
Yeah, that's gotta suck.
But I was thinking if there's anything more on that kind of level or that kind of thought. I think if anyone's thinking of doing it, have a plan, have support for it, and the other thing too is, have realistic expectations, and from realistic expectations set, I'm sure we'll do at some point, some episode where we will focus more on goal setting and some techniques that people use to set attainable goals and things like that. But focus on, I would really recommend people early on, for example, focus less on you can have in your mind, I want to get myself on this huge playlist on Spotify, or I want to have 1,000 followers, or I want to do whatever. You have these numbers that may be big for you where you're at the time or something, and I think it's better to focus on one of the best things that I think has helped me a lot is the days, especially during the months I've been really organized, and I'll wake up every morning, I'll write what I want to do that day, and one of the first things is always gain one new friend or fan today. And it's literally through responding to people on Reddit, through replying to people talking about something you wrote a song about on Twitter, whatever the method is, focusing on that one person building at a time, because coming from marketing, word of mouth is the best way, and so winning one person over can have a lot more impact than just one person's voice.
So you feel that the main problem with many people is that they aim too high too soon and end up just losing momentum when they realize that shit, I can't do this.
Yeah, I think they not only do they lose momentum maybe, but I think they also set themselves up to waste time and money on things that don't work. Because if your goal is only validated by I'm going to get a certain number of plays or something like that, it's easy for people to get kind of hooked into these people who are going to help you get plays on Spotify when it's really bots, or you're not a month later you're going to waste money on it that you really shouldn't be wasting, especially if you are going to leave your job or reduce your hours, and you're chasing those numbers thinking that what made people is getting to those benchmarks, when in reality that goes away as soon as you stop paying. Same thing goes with Instagram. People might have a goal of that they see rappers growing and popping off via Instagram, and so they think that they need to fake a big Instagram following, but people see through pretty quickly if you have 15,000 followers and only 82 people like every picture that you put up, because I can put some hashtags on things and get 100 likes with 500 followers. So it's not people kind of see what you're doing, and I think setting the wrong types of goals, it lets people buy into kind of shitty strategies early on. It makes them more susceptible, in addition to losing momentum, like you're saying.
Yeah. So what do you think about Instagram rappers, new Instagram rappers that basically
they're coming up on that platform?
Yeah, and I mean they're rapping about all the money and all the stuff that how can they have that? They don't have a following yet. They're just coming up, and
there's a lot of people which I'm glad they haven't ever done this, but there's a lot of people rapping lines I'm a choke a bitch, and they've never choked a bitch. That's not part of their life. That shit is not and people, this goes back to the money I don't know. I mean, yeah.
I mean, if it's consensual, then.
But reverse podcast. No, but we've stranded. We've wandered into the All right, maybe we start a sexual habits, a like don't kink shame podcast or something like that at some point. We got ideas for a spin-off. It's only episode 1. This is good. But no, I think like people coming up like that way and like faking that, it's interesting because obviously I like had done a lot of thinking about this of like, because this is stuff I'm trying to do myself, not through the same methods, but I want to grow in that genre of music as well. And one thing I've noticed is that, you know, you get a lot of people who they do this for like a certain amount of time.
Yep.
And they have trouble transitioning into like a real life role of that, and that they can kind of fake and sometimes even get a little bit going on Instagram, but if so much of the focus comes around like throwing a pile of money up in the air that you and all your homies took out of the bank and pulled together so you could do it for a day and then had to put it back so you could pay your rent, like if it centers around that doesn't always translate to like getting people to shows and people actually wanting to listen to your music. It becomes more you're like Boom Gang or some of these people on Instagram that were become more known for like the video content or the pranks and things around that.
Yeah. But I mean, do you think that that's an actual method that people use? They take loans from the bank or
100%.
And rent cars, like fancy cars, just to make
all the time, and not just in hip hop. That's a big thing in entrepreneurship as well. 100% people who put CEO in their bio, like they are, but it doesn't mean they're CEO of a successful company.
No.
But they show things off. Absolutely, people rent stuff just to stunt for a day and then have to take it back. This was a problem when I got into, kind of a tangent, but I did a bunch of online marketing when I was younger, where I would like sell affiliate products.
Oh yeah.
And I saw it even back then in sales pages from people who had absolutely nothing going, weren't even a name on the internet a month before, and then their sales page was just like the cheesiest, like, here I am with my Lamborghini, and like I'm gonna like, and like, yeah, that's been a thing for a long time, but it absolutely happens with like Instagram rappers and stuff.
But do you think that's like, is it a beneficial like method for those rappers? Like, let's say
can be
because I mean like if they're rapping about like, sort of like these like new school
fake it till
trap,
you make it.
Yeah, but I mean like these new school like trap rappers, like it's a lot about like the lifestyle. The lyrics are a lot about flexing and.
I don't want to say definitively because I haven't done it and seen it fail. I don't really plan to do it.
No.
But I think the thing about a lot of those things where you in anything, because it's at least from a business background, like when you like things tend to come like crashing down eventually if they're not actually built on anything. Yeah. And that goes like not just in businesses and things, but absolutely for people building up artistic following. You can only kind of like fuel that fire for so long, and I think that it can be beneficial, but the other thing to think about is that a lot of the people who are actually successful with those types of methods that we don't see have other connections that are helping them service other sides of what they're doing. Like they have like people who are management that is helping them book shows in the background, where their strategy of flexing on Instagram is not really the main thing. It appears that that's what's like getting them big, but it might not necessarily be. They have other connections and they can use them in that way. But it's definitely not to say that it has never worked for like people to do the fake it till you make it thing. It's just not what I would recommend, and it's becoming. The other thing too is for the people who it has worked, like the time has passed. Like it's everything's becoming more and more saturated by the day, and it's only going to get worse, and it's becoming a meme of itself. Like more and more people are more quick to latch on to like random white boy with an unfitted grill and some bills that he borrowed flexing on Instagram. Yeah. It becomes like pretty. There's like a smaller and smaller slice of people that will be fooled and think that it's like genuinely cool.
Yeah.
At this point. But
yeah, and even the rappers that do come up fast, I mean, they usually burn out pretty fast as well.
Yeah,
they don't often build long-lasting careers. That
exactly. And if you're this is the other thing too. If your fandom comes from something that kind of burned really hot and fast, it's really easy for those same people, to get distracted and move on to the next thing very quickly. If that's what you like, if you didn't really build, it's like having a hit song is a really good way to get discovered.
Yeah.
But it's not necessarily a good way to have like a dedicated, like everyone would want it, but like a dedicated fan, once they come in and like start listening, you have to have other things. You know what I mean? You have to build something along. There's plenty of times I've heard a song that I really like, and I'll click on the person's name because it came up on my Discover Weekly, and it's very clearly their only like interesting song that they've made, and everything else is really boring and has 600 plays, and I just kind of bounce out. So I think that same kind of thing happens, where if you have a hit account on Instagram by being big in that way, you better have something to back it up for the long term, and have built a relationship where it's not going to last for you. Yeah. Just take a second to recognize our sponsor here. This is what would you say? Ketchi? Sechi? I don't know. Some sort of Italian thing. I can't. And you guys can see as well. I don't know, but enjoy that. We are. Thank you for the not free bottle of wine, but feel free to sponsor us. Do you want to talk about the music we've listened to this week?
Should we start with the indie one, the one that you found?
Yeah, do we want to go?
Should we go from?
I almost feel like top to bottom, like from the biggest person first,
okay.
and then we'll see what we want to do.
Sure.
So the first one that we have was Action Bronson,
White Bronco.
Yeah. A lot of Bronco sounds in that one. Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? Your initial reaction? I'll come in a second here.
Well, I actually don't know. Like I am a hip hop fan. I am a fan of hip hop and different types of hip hop. It could be like modern R&B trap rap. It could be like old school boom bap style rap, jazzy hip hop and everything like that. Instrumental hip hop. But I just have to say that I just don't feel it. Like
this project. Yeah.
No. I mean, it seems a bit lackluster. I mean, I know that people have been waiting for his return to music for a while now, because he's been like doing cooking shows and everything. I've seen
running around like Vice's office or something like that.
Exactly, but I think I read something about him leaving Vice actually, because he felt like he was underpaid and underappreciated. So he was gonna go a different direction.
I saw some report a while ago of like some people like complaining about him in the Vice office, just being like, yeah, Action Bronson, like he just like doesn't do a lot and smells like weed and talks to people all day, and then him putting out like, I'm underpaid and underappreciated.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's two sides to every story.
Of course.
But anyway, I've read like on forums and stuff about people's opinions about this album, and I feel like a solid opinion that I read was that this was his first project in a while where he used different producers for his tracks instead of going with like,
oh really? Okay.
Instead of just going for one producer for the entire project. So I just feel like, even though it works, but it's not a very cohesive album. It's just a bunch of different songs, and I do enjoy the beats. They're very
I'd
jazzy.
be interested in knowing who did which track, because I actually I made a note that like probably my favorite part was the instrumentals in some of the.
Absolutely.
Well, I should make sure I'm saying how I mean it. That my favorite part overall of the album was the production, the instrumentals.
Oh, yeah.
But also in individual songs, there were plenty of them where I was like, on the vocals, and still really liked the beat and what was going on with the instrumental. A lot of them sounded like live recordings rather than beats.
Yeah, it just sounded like him rambling on top of stuff. Like it felt like he was sitting in the studio just making some notes and then just trying to flow and not really doing any like prior songwriting to going into the studio. Just
I wasn't as like, because we talked about this a little bit before. I didn't feel that like as much as you did when we were talking about like was the like the lazy delivery and stuff like that. I felt it on some things, but some of the songs I thought like there was some energy to. But I will say, when we talk about the songwriting aspect of it, like this album has a lot of laziness in the songwriting, and one of my first reactions, especially within the first couple tracks, which again were ones that I really liked the instrumentals on, was that it seemed like kind of just grasping for any like any rhyme at the end of a line. There would be lots of things that didn't actually relate to what was said the rest of the line, just like pause for half a beat, telephone, and it was like, okay, well, I guess you needed that one, but it doesn't really have anything to do with what you were talking about. So that was a little bit
it just felt like the lyrical content was lacking. It was basically rapping for the sake of rapping. It didn't feel like there was much that was needed to be said. It was just like a bunch of words. It was just like, I was trying to think of who is this album for, who wants to listen to this, like, I don't know. I just wasn't feeling it.
Did you? Okay, so something that I had noted here, because I listened to it like a million times, so there's got to be something wrong with my computer or something, and then I listened on like another speaker and stuff like that. I swear there's like an audio artifact, like a pop in one of his songs.
Okay.
That I could not see, like, really like getting through. At 1 minute and 16 seconds on the second track, I kept replaying, and there's just like this really weird like sounds when it sounds like when like CPU gets overloaded while you're recording, and just like a little like little peak or something like that. It was pretty weird, but
okay, that's weird. I haven't. I didn't notice.
It was pretty subtle. Like I barely heard it, and then I went back and I was like, oh, it's definitely there. But I don't know. I don't know. That's to me, that's something I would have in one of my songs, not someone at that level, but we'll see.
Yeah. Well.
But let's see. Okay. One of the things that I first of all, like, we have to say, like, Action Bronson has an interesting voice, and I think that's like it's big in rap delivery in general, and like people liking artists and stuff like that. And I can appreciate that, and I like the instrumentals. One of the things that I didn't like, which this was another thing that if that audio artifact was not just me, and that was something that actually is in there. Another thing that kind of surprised me is some of the mixing on the like sound effects that they used in this.
Yeah.
Were so like loud and blown out.
Oh, okay.
I really didn't like some of the like. There was, first of all, one song which, interesting choice, opens with just like 20 seconds of screaming.
Oh, okay.
So that's interesting. And it's very loud, and you turn it down because of that, and then he's too quiet, so you have to turn the track back up. There's another song, might be the one right before it or two before that, and it ends with kind of a skit, like some sounds of like a block party and things, and then and gunshots. And not only do you expect gunshots to be loud, but I don't know if he's going for some realism shit or what, but in a song, it was too much, and also a lot of the sound effects had the same kind of like saturation and distortion that he like has on his voice at some points, and that just made them sound so harsh when it's like a gunshot or someone's scream, and it's kind of like intentionally blown out a bit, and that was kind of like seemed kind of weird, like for someone at that level, and who's definitely has engineers working on that had, I don't know, that was an interesting choice. I wouldn't think it would be something that just slips through. But
I feel like the entire album is kind of, it feels a bit live-ish.
Yeah.
It's kind of raw. I don't know if that was the intention. I mean, but there's no excuse for like having like sound effects sounding like cheap and amateurish at that level that he's at. Like overall, I don't feel like it's not a bad album per se. I mean, it's like, I enjoyed the last half more than the first, actually. I feel like he sort of like got into it a bit more. And but it was definitely the first half that sounded the most lazy to me, like where he had some rhymes and some bars where it's just like
having some features in the second half helped too, maybe.
Yeah.
A$AP Rocky probably had a better verse than any of his
for sure.
verses on it. But anyway, did you have any favorite tracks or tracks that you liked that stood out? I like there's one called Irishman Freestyle, which I think is
the second track
that I enjoyed that. I think I liked the instrumental a lot on it too.
Yeah, no, actually I can't really say that I had.
It wasn't like a stand, yeah.
Because that's the thing with the album. It was like overall an okay experience that you can just listen through and just have in the background, but there's nothing that sticks out to me. There's nothing that just, it's just a very average album to me. It's not bad, it's not good. Like
just is.
I actually had a tough time getting through it, like listening to it in just one sitting. It was difficult, but
so I don't know what are we doing. Are we doing number ratings? I haven't thought about this. Like if we want to do like a.
No, I feel like it's fair. I feel like we should do like should we do out of 10?
Sure. What would you go for?
Should we do it like decimal points as well, or?
Let's do to the half.
Yeah, not like 7.2
8,
or
7, yeah.
but like 7.5. Right. That's fine. Yeah, I would give it a 5 out of 10.
5 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd probably go with like maybe 5.5. I'm in that area where you kind of like.
But you're also more of a hip hop guy. You also like.
Yeah, and I still like.
You can appreciate the small things that I might actually miss out on.
Yeah, it's kind of like I give the production on it is much higher, the delivery and like is middle, and the songwriting low, and it kind of like averages itself out somewhere in the middle to me.
Yeah, I mean the instrumentals like in themselves, if they were an album, I would probably lean towards like a 7 or something like that. So I mean I agree with you 100%.
Yep. All right, let's go on to one that I think we both enjoyed.
Yeah,
more.
Absolutely.
Tell a little bit about this one. You found this album for us to talk about.
Exactly. The second album that we're talking about today is by a duo called Former Vandal. The album is called The Grieving Young. And well, basically they're a duo. Like I think I discovered.
I didn't actually know they were a duo.
No, I actually discovered their music. Maybe a year ago or something, but I didn't really listen that much to them, and I think they were basically just one guy at first. I think it was this guy called Quinn Wentz. He does guitars and he sings. So previous releases were leaning more towards like electronic pop with a more like dancey twist. But basically, I think that for this new album, he got together with this other guy called Christian Del Zoppo or something like that.
It's just for this album, though.
No. I think this Christian guy joined the band.
But I mean, is this the first release they've done together for an album?
As far as I know, there's not much information to be found. But from what I could gather, like, because I saw on their Bandcamp, basically it said that Former Vandal was a alt pop deadbeat.
Okay.
So
I was actually going to ask like how you
So it was basically like everything was written in like singular. So I think it was just Quinn at first, and then this Christian guy joined on drums and percussion for the new album. So it's basically like
what a blessing, Christian guy.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Continue, please.
So basically, the new album is a bit different from his other releases. It's more like guitar based. It's more like retro styled, like 80s revival type pop. With more focus on guitars than any of the previous releases that he or they've had so far. I really enjoyed the first. Well, first we have like an intro, and then we have the first real track called Parliaments, and it's just like super catchy, super danceable, like 80s style pop song. Reminds me a lot about my favorite band, for an example, 1975.
Right.
And I feel like fans of that band should definitely check these guys out. So I would say the album cover has a small text above the album title that says a sonic recollection of youth and emotional significance by former Vandal. And I feel that's a pretty apt description of. Yeah, I mean, some people might say that that's a bit too much, but.
But okay, yeah. But I get that. Yeah, it makes sense for this.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it makes sense. Like the album just gives you like a really nostalgic vibe.
Yeah.
But it's still sort of like it's not like a 80s style album completely. You can hear that it's that. It
no, you know what I got, which is, I know you might be kind of like, I don't know about this, but when I was listening, what I got was what it sounded like to me is some of the like pop rock and alternative that like I used to listen to around the time I was into bands like Fall Out Boy and stuff, except mixed with electronic elements that had like softened the whole sound out a lot more than it would be without it. Something like that. It was kind of how that was one of my first thoughts when I started listening through their tracks. Could also be the like sound of the singer's voice as well. Kind of just reminds me of some of those like 2000 era indie pop bands as well.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I get that. I feel like there is
actually you barely touched your wine.
Oh, I know. I should get into that. Cheers.
Cheers.
Basically, I feel like you're definitely right. But for an example, like I'm pretty sure that they're influenced by the 1975, and I would say that the 1975 from the beginning, they're basically, well, at first anyway, they were mixing like pop punk with like 80s style pop. So but what I liked about this album as well was that it's very varied. It has very like many different types of songs. Some like really electronic ballads and some more guitar based songs. And yeah, I don't know. Like one of the tracks that I really liked was one of the ones that were like the most like modern style track. It was one called Blow. It's basically a very danceable electronic beat. Like it has sampled vocals and keeps the guitars to a minimum until like a huge solo comes in. And it's a bit cliche, but it still works. Like it's a very catchy song. And we also have Party Foul and Belladonna, two tracks that I really enjoyed.
I wrote those as two of my three favorites.
Yeah, I mean, like it's really like nice, like enjoyable, like.
I really like the shift in the album during that part for the softer, like more ambient songs. I thought that was nice.
Exactly, like it's more like power ballads, almost like ambient pop ballads. Very nostalgic and dreamy. Like if we were to talk about the weaker parts of the album, I would say that it would come down to the lyrical content. But at the same time, I feel like this album is supposed to be like sort of like a nostalgic recollection.
Right, it's like talking about it's like stories and feelings of being younger as well, which are kind of at their core less articulate and a little more
exactly
in that way
more simplistic. It's like a few tracks.
Come on, Action Bronson, you gotta have a reason. Gotta have a reason to dumb it down.
Exactly, they have like you can feel that their intention was to create an album that was supposed to like sort of take you back to the days when things were a bit simpler, like when you were but still not like
I felt that way because you were younger.
Yeah. But I mean, so they have an excuse. The Action Bronson release. Well, I don't know about that.
No, I like that as well, and but I agree with there were some songs, but it, as well as like it feels like on this project, you're almost like looking for a place to fault rather than something jumped out is actually wrong with it, right? You know what I mean? Like that. I was still, quite enjoyed what was
100%
going on.
Yeah.
I think that I had written for my kind of standout tracks. I just noted 3. There were actually quite a few that I liked, but I had Party Foul, Belladonna. I actually had Baby Boy at the beginning. Just a lot of the early songs had a very like catchy like it was easy to like kind of get them in your head vibe
Yeah.
to them. This Baby Boy was just one of the first ones that for whatever reason the melody like stuck with me the most, but I like a lot of the early ones.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, I feel like the first half of the album might be the best. I mean, like, one could say that the album is maybe a bit too long. It's 57 minutes.
Right,
16
yeah, it's a long one.
tracks. And for being basically the debut
I kind of like the
album-
second half.
I mean,
personally.
I do too. Like, okay.
I liked them both. It was just that the first half for me almost got more, there were a lot more energy in the first half, but it
yeah,
also
For sure.
some of the songs were, if there was close to anything in this album where parts of it sounded too much the same, I kind of didn't want. I was kind of ready by the time the slower songs came. I was kind of ready for a break from one kind of fast poppy song to the next, and I kind of liked the.
I just felt like they stuck to the ambient part a bit too much
Too long?
for the
Oh.
for the mid to late part of the album. But it's still a great album. Like as far as I could tell, they don't have a record label or anything, and
Yeah, I was gonna ask you about that.
for just two guys that created this album, like
I was gonna-
57 minutes, 16 tracks.
I had a
it's
note
impressive.
that I wanted to talk about on that note as well, about the label thing, and then also thinking about something. If you look at I don't know if you spent much time looking through the amount of plays that each song on the album had on Spotify, for example, which was, if you look through, you can see quite quickly that there is a huge discrepancy
Okay.
in the amount of songs plays per song.
Is there like a
and-
drop off in the middle?
It's not as much of just a drop off in the middle, but it is certain songs along the way. And the reason I wanted to bring this up, because it's something we were kind of talking about. This will absolutely come up, like things, how to get music discovered in like 2018, 2019 soon and stuff like that. But I think that actually speaks volumes to the fact that there are plenty of songs on this album, or at least a few of them, that have tens of thousands of plays at this point that are up in, I think, like the 30 to 50 or 60,000 range. And when I was looking at their particular, I noticed they have something like 53,000 monthly listeners on Spotify.
Yeah.
Party Foul and Belladonna and a couple other songs that weren't just like those that were slow on the album
Yeah.
have less than 1,000 plays.
Okay.
They aren't even counted yet. They're still in the less than 1,000 mark. And the reason I thought that was interesting or important to bring up is that it really speaks to like how music is discovered right now, because I can all but guarantee that those, which deservedly so because they're good songs, but some of the songs that have much higher play counts are in some playlists at this point.
Yeah.
And it's much more common, even for a band like that has clearly built some following, you know what I mean? He or they now have got some like people that are, excited for their stuff and will listen to it when it comes out.
Yeah.
It's obviously you definitely listen to music a little different when a lot of discovery right now is happening because a particular song is on a playlist. The vast majority of those people probably do not go, or I know they don't go and listen then to the album that song is from start to finish. And it's quite I feel like that's more, of course everyone has favorite songs, but I feel like if you used to have a CD of a song and you could see like how many plays you had on each one or something like that, even if there were ones you skipped more often, if people looked across all their listenership, it's a pretty big difference to have, a fairly new album and say one thing's got 60, 70,000 plays and another has, we can't see, 300, 700.
Yeah.
And it's not any kind of, because some of those ones with lower play count were some of my favorite songs, like we talked about. I really liked them. So it's not any like any dig at them or anything like that. But I just thought that was interesting to note because I was like, saw their monthly listener thing. I was like, hey, wait a minute, like why aren't these, showing up as much there?
What do you feel like they should do to bring up the like to actually get listeners? Because I mean,
I don't know that they need to.
Okay, because I feel like like bands of that.
I think it's okay for people
might
to just pick and choose, but.
Sure. I mean, there's always going to be fans that enjoy just the one, like the popular songs, the songs that are on the list. But I mean, isn't it most artists' goal to actually find people that enjoy their sound and want to listen to their like the
All of
record
it.
as it was created. And
of course that's the ideal. I just think that was never exactly how it went, but it's even less so now when it's you discover music in different ways and things like that. I mean, what if they were that concerned about it, then what I would do, pro tip for any artists right now that are listening to music, if they were like, okay, I'm really sad that these mellower songs aren't getting plays, how can we boost these above and bring them in line with the rest of the album?
Yeah.
I would literally go on Spotify and I would Google. I would search on Spotify for mellow hits, like mellow indie, like calm indie, ambient hits, whatever.
Yeah.
Look through the playlist that come up for those searches, see who makes them. Almost everyone who has that, even if they don't have a way to submit to them, like they don't put an email in the playlist description or something, then they're playing easy mode for you, but most people don't. But almost everyone, their Spotify account is linked to Facebook and has the same profile picture as their Facebook.
Oh, okay.
So pro tip, you go and see what their name is. You search that name on Facebook, find the one that has the same profile picture. Send them a message, preferably not with a link on the first message, and let them know why you're reaching out and that you found them. Send them a friend request. A lot of times they won't reach back, but that is absolutely a used strategy right now where people are, that's like getting music placed on certain playlists, doing that. Yeah. That's like a key, because the no matter how fast they build and do more shows and go through kind of traditional channels of building more plays and more fans, it's kind of like fighting fire with fire. If they really wanted to catch songs up with songs that were on big playlists, they need to get other ones, positioned to be as easily discovered. Yeah. Anything else you want to say on that one?
Well, basically, the absolute like weakest point of the album isn't actually it's not even an issue. It's a non-issue, but it was basically the song titles, with
I didn't even pay attention to them.
Titles such as Blow, Summer Jobs, New Suburban Gothic.
I mean, to be honest, Baby Boy was kind of creepy.
Yeah.
Even though I like the song, I was kind of creeped out by Baby Boy.
It makes me
reminded me of Always Sunny.
It's Always Sunny, exactly. I was gonna
Baby
say
Boy,
that.
Danny Boy.
Yeah, no, but anyway, I would strongly recommend the album.
Yes.
To anyone.
I would too, and it's not even the genre I listen to a lot.
Exactly. I mean, that's something that we could get into, saying that I'm mostly like a pop, R&B, electronic,
yeah. Your average listening day has a lot of that on.
Exactly. But it's very varied. But for an example, in this podcast, you're gonna notice. This is our hip-hop expert, and I might be more into... No, you're definitely...
Anyways. Yeah.
But I would definitely recommend the album to anyone who's a fan of, just fun indie pop. It's a great listen. Some of the tracks work for, party. Some of the tracks are just perfect for the bus ride home after the party or before the party. Or it's just got this really nice vibe to it. And I would recommend it for fans of the 1975, Laney. And the vocals actually reminded me of this Australian group called Chase Atlantic. I don't know if you've heard of them.
I don't think so.
No. They've got a different sound, but they kind of reminded, old Chase Atlantic sounded a bit like this, actually. And
yeah.
So I would recommend it for people who like those bands and anyone who's just into fun guitar-based pop with some synths and stuff.
I think I'll go first for this one. So you went first for the last one on a rating.
Absolutely.
For it. I would go with, and I think it all comes down to actually I'm not even gonna preface it. I will say I would go with maybe an 8 on this one.
Yeah, I was leaning towards
say 7.5 to 8 for me.
Exactly, that's exactly where I'm at. I was going with a strong 7.5 or a weak 8. But actually, for the sake of just being their first long full length album,
working together as well.
Yeah, exactly. Doing this by themselves, as far as I know, without the support of a label, just two guys. I'm giving it an 8 without a doubt. I enjoyed it, and I think that a lot of people would enjoy it too if they just check it out. But just a notice that from now on, I feel like they should work a bit more on their like lyrical, like on their lyrics.
I think it will be telling as well on whatever they release next, if they have the excuse any longer that it's a little bit related to the aesthetic of the project, or not, right? And then you gotta work on it.
I feel like this was the album that they had to write. Like it makes sense, and it just like the aesthetic of the album. It just the lyrics work, but I would like to see them continue on the same sort of musical path, but maybe doing it like a bit, trying to write a more mature lyrics.
Yeah.
From now on, but in the end, that's up to them. If they prefer what they're doing now, I mean, kudos to them for still making good songs. So I would just say check them out on like Spotify or Apple Music or your streaming service of choice.
Yeah. Or the one you don't like. Shake it up. Go listen to it on Tidal.
Absolutely. Don't they get more money from the...
Yeah, probably. Go listen to it on Tidal. Yeah. If you like it, they get more per play. All right, let's go to our indie, our small release for this period or this episode. Basically, we have an album from Anthony Hoang, who is indie hip hop artist that I've come into contact with, and I have like a couple features on here, so we're going to talk about that as well. He's from Charlottesville, Virginia, if I have it right. Yes. Has been doing some hip hop for a number of years, and is in college at this point, doing that kind of part time alongside studies and some other things. So we wanted to take this part of the segment each week, or I guess maybe 2 weeks right now, but however we're doing it, but each episode, and kind of put a spotlight on someone who there's no label, there's no kind of big momentum yet or anything like that, and it's just ground up who's got something they've put out, and let's talk about how it went and how they did and our general thoughts. So Second Wave was I believe 10-track project, and it was an interesting one, and I know that I know Anthony. I've talked with him plenty, so I will kind of in an attempt to not be, I want to be very kind of as impartial as possible on this, and it's good to have someone else like in on it, because I think that as well there were things that I liked, and I have let him know in person. Or not in person, but through messages. And there are things that I was not as hot on, and I want to be able to talk about those as well. I think it's important one thing to think about if you're an artist. It's very, if you're, there's a line between like ego and confidence, and if your ego is too big to take feedback, you're gonna have a tough time improving and things like that. So we'll get into that in a second. Just kind of in like a rapid fire way, and then you jump in when you want, or you can come in after. But for the things that stood out as so this is, first of all, this is for if we haven't really touched on it, this is almost exclusively like a hip hop and rap album. A couple of it's some sung choruses and things, but that's the genre that we're working in. I believe he did most of the production himself on it, and which was impressive. I thought some of the production and beats, I would say highlights for me, production. I like, even if flow faltered at times, I like his like vocal tone. I always kind of think that like I don't have a very interesting voice, and so I like to hear people, like whenever I'm rapping, I'm like, I wish I had a little more grit or something. So I liked hearing that in his vocal tone of his delivery, with the instrumentals, and then the both in the instrumentals and the choruses. I think this album did a really good job with melody and having some catchiness in the hooks and things like that. Yeah. Where I think the weaker parts come in, we've talked about some of the features and the mixing of said features. Yeah. Which was rough in places. And one thing that stuck out for me, there are there were definitely tracks on here where there were flow issues where I would have wanted to go back and record if I had done it myself, where I was kind of like, okay, that sounds like you're trying to rush words or awkwardly pausing, or it should be kind of, if you've done it for a few years, you want to listen closely and make sure you go back and redo these, or I think it would be a good idea to do. It's not to the point that it's ruining, because most of the time his rapping is on beat, but those were things I noticed. And the final thing I wanted to say before I open this up a little more is the one thing that I was honestly probably my main sticking point for this project was the lyrics of the hooks.
Okay.
In that the lyrics of the verses were in general were fine, and weren't most of the time weren't overly cheesy, and they made sense and things like this, and so that was okay with me. But a lot of the hooks had these great melodies, be it from his voice or from following along with the beat, but it would be a very repetitive, dull message. And I think that's kind of a pretty common thing, because I know I've had that, especially it's definitely something I've had to practice and get better at in my own music, is that writing hooks, sometimes you're so focused on making something that's catchy that you forget to make it an extension of whatever you're talking about in your song, to the point that it sounds like you're really saying something, instead of just a couple lines that repeat and can be a little bit corny on their own. That was one thing I took issue with on some of the tracks. But
yeah.
Anyways, I'll let you say what you're thinking, or what you have.
Yeah, I was actually I couldn't really find that much information since you chose the album. But I enjoyed it. I thought it was better than the Action Bronson album, if I'm being honest.
Right. Look at Anthony. Props for that one.
And I'm sorry, Action. You're good. If you ever see this, I mean, no offense.
Everyone has their off days, their off albums.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, sure, you could tell that this album was made by a new artist,
right? So it's more amateur level, or
absolutely, like the production, everything. But I did enjoy the beats a lot. I didn't know if he produced them himself, but no. I had
to confirm with him, because I forget, but he does produce, and I think that he did make.
But knowing that he might have produced a lot of tracks, that's impressive to me, because that was the main thing that I liked.
If I got that wrong, sorry, Anthony.
Because I thought that the beats had a very unique vibe to them.
Yeah,
they're very electronic, and a lot of them anyway. And yeah, I just really thought they were unique, but he made it work in a very good way. He has a good voice, like you said, solid tone, and the delivery is just like you said. It's really on point for the most part, but there are a few places where you can tell that maybe he could have done it a bit better, but still I wasn't that bothered by
put
it.
off by it. Yeah.
No, but but do you know, is he promoting this as an album, or is it a mixtape, or is it what
album is what he's called it.
Oh, okay. Okay, yeah, but
who goddamn knows these days.
But and also the features.
Yes.
Yeah, we should get into.
Okay, let's talk about the features. Go ahead.
Well, I feel like.
Let her rip. Bring out the chainsaws.
Yep. I just feel like a lot of the features just
fell flat for you.
Yeah, they definitely fell flat and did not work the way they were intended to. In the case with the song "Fire," had a feature of someone called
that was singing.
I'm gonna exactly. I'm gonna butcher the pronunciation, but Nisha Kitreotin.
We'll call her Nisha.
Nisha, yeah.
Nisha was singing on this track.
Yeah, she has a lovely voice. Her tone is excellent, but she's definitely flat on some parts, and I just feel like if they had put a bit more time into the production on it, it would sound amazing instead of slightly off-putting. It's not bad, but you're still I don't know.
So the song "Ride" that has a bunch of features that, the 24 Hours that has a bunch of features.
Yeah.
And then there's the song because I'm sure we'll get to that. Some of the other people on that. And then there's also the song "Ride" that has the same singer that has Nisha on it again. We went back and forth in when I was a little bit a part of this track, and there was actually quite a big revision done on her part at the beginning, and he was kind of questioning it, and I said that you should change it. Like, you know, it would be like mean or anything like that, but there's things that should change about this. But that was I had a very similar reaction to what you're saying of you know, when it basically was like, almost like you said, it was almost like a good tool that wasn't used quite right.
Yeah,
like
exactly.
you know what I mean. Like she sounds like this is someone who can sing a hell of a lot better than I can, and I'm like, wow, this could sound really good with the the right engineering when both while she's recorded and then the production, post production and how you process it and make it big and but yeah, it was a little bit tough. I don't feel like it was brought out, and I think that was kind of an issue that reared its head on a lot of the features in that. The mixing that was done on voices that weren't his own maybe needed a little more attention or more time to get maybe feedback from the other people back and forth and however that went. But that was something that I kind of thought throughout.
So did he engineer the album himself? Did he?
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe he's using like the same techniques that he would use for his own voice. To produce the other.
And that's a tough thing because you get stuff as well, and it can, you can need like a completely different approach for different people, and then it's also maybe hard to hear because what you may think sounds good on a first listen to their voice might be, the other person says, oh, I've recorded myself 300 times, and I know for a fact that you need to like bring out the high end of the frequencies of my voice if you want it to have any bite at all, or it's gonna sound really dull on this, or different things like that, and you just might not think of it if it's not your own that you've heard a lot and are invested in, so that was something I think the mixing on that could be improved. I know this is something that might be, I won't like I said, like I enjoyed the album, and we'll get to like scores and stuff in a minute, but I don't want to, this is not at all hanging him out to dry as an artist or anything, but something that I think could be learned, and this comes directly from me as well, because I've done this with my projects in the past. I've set a certain date. I've gotten myself into a place where I'm like, okay, am I going to rush things and make the date, or there's some things I really should revise and maybe I don't. I know that this album was intended to move a little more quickly than it did, at least from the parts that I like, messages and when we went back and forth about my involvement in it. And I think that this is one where it like probably could have benefited from a little more of the kind of in gaming there's like, I think Blizzard and some other CD Projekt Red and some other game developers have kind of taken this technique, and it's almost been coined as a phrase as theirs of like, it's ready when it's ready, and that they don't really announce release dates for things until it could have already released, and then the only reason they set a release date is to give themselves like a marketing window and whatever. And I think that's a decent technique for artists to think about when you want to do whole projects. If you're kind of rapid fire, you want to do singles as soon as they're ready, and that's your strategy. I do a lot of that. That's fine. I get it. But if you've got something, especially when you're bringing other people into it, where you're going to have to go back and forth with them, it's really hard to put yourself in a position where you're almost choosing between, I really wish they'd redo a take, or I really wish I had more time to figure out how I engineer this better, but I told everyone I'm doing it now and I'm trying to get it done. And I think that that maybe, when it comes to the feature parts, maybe had a little bit of an effect on of how some of those turned out, was a little bit too tight of a deadline for those types of things.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm seeing if I had anything. I really liked, there's something called Hit Me. I love the production on that one, and I thought it was actually kind of, maybe back to what I was talking about earlier, there's no real, it's basically like a sample on the hook. There's no vocal melody throughout it. Oh, okay. It's just like some chops, and they're buried quite low in the beat, and it's mostly the beat that is making up the hook. And I actually thought that was one of my favorites. There was one called One Punch that was kind of more trappish, and that was one of my least favorite. I thought it was kind of got away from some of the things I liked the most about the production and different things that he'd done with it. And I think that one suffered a little bit from, that may be even the one or one of the ones that kind of sparked some of my thoughts on I don't know if I like some of the lyrics of the, it was like, one punch, I'm the man type thing. It's kind of like, okay. That's a little cornier than I think. It didn't resonate with me as much. But yeah, I think those were like one kind of a high and a low that I wanted to talk about.
So all in all, more focus on writing lyrics and just not stressing when
for the hooks. Yeah, I would say pay more attention to the hooks.
To the hooks and just
and maybe give yourself more time with features.
Exactly. Okay. Yeah.
That's what I would. One man's opinion.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's where I would go with it. I think if you are into as far as like give this a listen, I would encourage you to go do it. Again, Anthony Hoang, and he's on Spotify and everywhere now. This is originally, because of the time thing we talked about, originally came out just on SoundCloud, and now I looked today and it was out on Spotify and everything.
It's on Apple Music as well.
Yeah. So that is, you can go find it there. It's called Second Wave. Encourage you to give a listen. As far as who will enjoy it the most, I think you're going to be someone who enjoys like discovering more indie hip hop and newer songs. And also, if you have a lot of the production has a really nice blend of some of these electronic elements you talk about, but also with real instruments. I know he plays saxophone and is involved at his university with different band members who may have been brought in to record on some of these, and that could lend itself to some of those. I don't know exactly which are samples and which are being played, but yeah, I think if you're into that and you want to hear that, then definitely go take a listen to it. Score wise,
I would say, for me anyway, it's a 6.5.
Yeah.
I would say that he has some stuff that he needs to work on, but I'm giving it a 6.5 in like in the grand scheme of things, like not thinking about where he's at right now, like for being just like an indie hip hop release from someone who's not well known. I mean, sure, I could give it a higher score,
right? Yep.
But like all in all, 6.5.
Yep. That's We're on the level. I was gonna go with 6.5 to 7 on it. So, but I think also that if I'm exactly as you say, if I'm judging it on the scale that I would any release, then I'd be more leaning towards the 6 to 6.5. If I was judging it on the like indie artist, then I'd be okay, maybe more 6.5 to 7 and go that way.
Yeah,
so that's kind of the range I'm in. I think that is fair. Any closing things?
No, I don't think so.
Not really. For everyone that's listening or watching this, listening to this, we have started. This is basically a reboot of this podcast and will be episode 1. So it's a format that Sebastian and I will do together now. I enjoyed this. I'm happy to do it again. And so basically, we have made all new accounts for this. So we have at How to Art Podcast on Instagram, on Twitter. We have How to Art Podcast on YouTube. We have it on SoundCloud now. I think I've got just about all the accounts covered. Facebook's kind of for old people, but we should make that. So, that kind of thing. We're moving along. We've got that, but please do go find us, How to Art or How to Art Podcast on those platforms and follow along. We'll post stuff in between the shows. And we'll also, of course, post the episodes very soon. You'll be able to listen to this while you're probably listening to it now, so you know where to listen to it. But, and we'll get the video up on YouTube. Again, this has been How to Art. I'm Petravita.
And I'm Sebastian.
And we will catch you guys in a couple of weeks. Peace.